meeting of the Bay County Veterans Affairs Committee to order on December 17th, 3 p.m. Roll call.
Lazars?
Here.
Pergandy? Here. Stewart? Here. Fantal?
Here.
And Begay.
Here. Have the minutes from 11/19/2019.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes from
Support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We have citizens input. Anybody from the citizens who'd like to address us? State your name.
Fred Zippler. I have a question regarding your the format of these meetings. Vaughn, you're probably going to be the only one to know this answer. Is this something that was copied from the regular commissioners meeting as far as the order of things?
Format, yeah.
Well, there's a reason why I'm asking this. Citizens input. Excuse me. That's before all this other stuff. And the reason why I ask this, last meeting, this group, including yourself, voted to scrap the $300, what is it, a funeral benefit? Or,
No, we did.
for people that had X amount of assets. Is that correct?
We'll be talking about it.
According to the statute, the law, you have to be an honorably discharged veteran.
Mm-hmm.
You had served during the wartime, and you have to have less than 40,000 in assets after your homestead. If
Okay.
you have a $200 million house, that does not come into play.
All right.
It's the assets after that.
Here's my problem with that.
400. If you get over 40,000, then according to statute, you do not.
What statute?
I got it right here.
What does that statute govern?
Funeral expenses of veterans.
No, I mean, what, is that from the soldiers and sailors or from this committee?
This is from the state.
Where's that fund, where's the money come from?
The money is directed to be paid out of the county, but this is a state law authorizing the counties to pay.
Is that the same state law that authorized $125,000 given to the asbestos farm over here?
For the what?
No,
Give 125 grand to this, what's it called?
that's the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund
Activity
law.
Center, the Bay Veterans Foundation.
Here's why I'm questioning this. If this veteran served 2 years, 4 years, or 32 years, he was honorably discharged, and he worked himself up in life. He worked. He built some affluency. That disqualifies him. Why isn't all veterans treated the same?
This statute is intended for indigent people.
That's the same. Yes, I know. That was the same indigent. Is this veterans thing over here indigent?
It's to service the indigent people or people that.
I don't, forget it. I don't want to listen to that. My question is, why isn't this, or why couldn't the citizen input be after or during some of these votes?
So here's the story. You can have one at the end. There are some townships I go to that have a citizens input at the beginning and at the end. Our county commission has always had it at the beginning. I guess this committee consider having citizens input at the end. Now, a lot of times we ask for input during the meetings too, which we shouldn't be doing, of course, but if you'd be happier, we could talk about having citizens input at the end also, because that is, I think that's allowed in some of the statutes that you can do before and after.
I understand you can't open everything up to everybody. My opinion's not going to count, but I'm not part of this group.
Yeah.
Jamie's isn't going to count, he's not part of this group. But maybe just some input before you guys take the vote is all. But I understand you can't do it every time, I understand.
Can't really do that. We can have citizens input before, we can maybe do it at the end, but we can't have like testimony. I mean,
Yeah.
we can have discussion amongst ourselves.
Yeah,
but,
and you can't go back and change the vote. You've already voted unanimously to do away with that whatever it's called. You can't undo it. My question was the format here, for what it's worth. And
We'll take it under advisement for maybe a public comment at the end of the session.
that's all.
Any other citizens' input? All right, we'll close the citizens' input. Petitions and communications. Do we have any? We do have, well, let's say this would be under old business. We have the articles that we're talking about here. So let's just go to budget adjustment, vehicle repair and maintenance. Mr. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what prompted this? There's an unexpected invoice for a vehicle repair for the remainder of this year. So what I'm looking to do is include a motion to recognize some proceeds that came in from MMRMA for an incident earlier in the year from a different vehicle. Just recognize those proceeds as revenue, so then we can do a budget adjustment to cover this additional cost. So it wouldn't cost any additional money, nothing from the fund balance, things of that, but should get a motion to be in favor of that.
How much money are we moving?
It's $2,300, $2,317.
Yes, I make a motion, we move $2,317 from one category to the next and budget, same budget, different categories.
Different, yeah, just basically, to recognize the proceeds as revenue and then approve any necessary budget adjustment.
I support.
Any discussion, questions? And I guess this goes to the Board of Commissioners then later on today. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Old business. Who wants to go first on old business? We do have the articles that Mr. Brigandy, I believe, has passed out.
Yeah, let me mention this for a minute. This is an extremely rough initial draft, and there's a lot of warts on it. What this actually is the bylaws for the Roscommon County Department of Veterans Affairs that I did a global change on, cleaned it up a little, tried to streamline it a little bit and reformat it a little bit. So it's not going to fit what we're going to do here. And that's why I gave everybody an initial draft. If you would, take a look at it, mark it up with red ink, green ink, blue ink, whatever ink you want, and get it back to me. I will incorporate all those changes. It's sort of, we originally had the rules that Craig put together, 6 months ago or so?
About that.
Yeah.
And I think those can be incorporated into the same article numbers on this. So we already have the content, which we've already approved on this for those. There's just some more information in these bylaws that we need to take a look at. And, it brings up a good question. Are these I read through it earlier, and I talked to Craig earlier. Are these the bylaws for the Department of Veterans Affairs or for the committee? Which are they? Or are they one and the same?
I'm just wondering if the MVVA has sample guidelines. You can maybe check with them. They may have some sample ones too, the Michigan Veterans Affairs Committee. So we can maybe see if they have some.
Yeah, I would say the one I got from Roscommon County is probably the best. Roscommon has been doing this for quite a while.
So we can check.
And their organization is, their structure is similar to ours.
Right.
And in addition to that, I have committee policies, which I think after we get our bylaws done, we need to incorporate such things as vehicle operations and burial funds and those kind of things into the committee policies.
So I guess we can receive these for review, and then we'll It probably will take maybe 2 votes on it. Usually when you do bylaws and amendments, you,
We're
Look at
probably
it.
going to need a couple of votes on it,
Couple
yeah.
votes on it,
'Cause
yeah.
it's going to take a couple different iterations. And I'm going to be gone in January, so we're not going to have one in January.
any other questions?
Should we just scan these and email them to you then, the recommend changes?
You can, or you can get them to Mark, and I'll pick them up from him when I get back on the 17th
Got it.
of January.
Okay. All right, and then the other old business, I don't know, do we want to, Marilyn?
Last month, we talked about the burial expenses of veterans. And I guess I have a question for the attorney, Amber, because in the Act 235 of 1911, number 2 said, this subsection does not apply to a county if the county board of commissioners passes a resolution by majority vote that exempts the county from the requirements of this subsection. I don't know if that exempts the 40,000 or the whole act.
No.
And I don't know if the Board of Commissioners ever saw this act for,
Not aware, I've been here since 2004, and I'm not aware of any. Probably Deanne would be the one to ask. She has the records of the resolutions. We can look into. So that would exempt, go into a little more detail on what we could do, what the commissioners could do by that action.
Well, the way I read that section is if the county wants to exempt themselves from that part, that section, it means they don't pay the 300 at all.
Okay.
Maryland's looking at if they vote to exempt themselves from
the
the 40,000
40,000.
ceiling.
That means that they could,
So it's like,
Everybody.
which part does it address? Does it address, we can have unlimited income for these burial expenses, or the county just
Doesn't
gets
do it
right
at
out of
all.
it, doesn't pay anything to anybody?
would have the option of paying
That's-
everybody or nobody.
Yeah,
Yeah, someone would have to look at this act.
that's the lawyers.
Oh, okay.
Yes, my name's Heather Pitcher, I'm sitting in for Amber today, but I can touch base with you after the meeting, and we can work together with Amber and look at that statute to get you an answer.
Thank you.
I did talk to Dave Luzak over at Gephardt's about this, when people come into his place, and it's, it's a quick questionnaire, and he doesn't have them bring in tax forms or anything like that, so it's, pretty cursory, honor system, I guess, type thing.
Right, and continuing on, if there is a $40,000 limit
Yeah.
for income or assets after the homestead's exempted, and you alluded to the fact that the current paperwork that the questionnaire is very ambiguous, not very in-depth. I handed out to the commission like a questionnaire that the funeral homes could go through, if that's the decision of this body, and it lists categories of vehicles, recreational vehicles, boats, hunting property, farm property, for everything except the homestead itself. But this would have to go in, determine on if their county can exempt from the 40,000 ceiling and give it to everybody, or if the 40,000 is in fact a hard number, then we need to get a better questionnaire, give it to the personnel that are actually indigent and really need it. Because doing the burials, I've seen burials come through at $10,000 to $13,000 for a burial,
Yeah.
and they're looking for 300. That 300 isn't going to go very far for that $13,000 expense. If you get $13,000 expense, if you can pay the 13, you're not really hurting you could be, you're taking out a loan, but it's not very good use of your money. But I didn't put any life insurance on here either, so if a spouse dies and they get $100,000 of life insurance, well, that becomes an asset. But I didn't list that, which would have to be listed on this form also.
And if we're not enforcing it or checking closely on it, I think we need to make a decision on that then too, if we're going to do it for
Right.
everybody or not do it for anybody. So that may answer our question on public comment. Any other old business? Mr. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Chair, just to revisit, a previous motion for transportation drivers was to increase their rate from $1 to $3. I could not find any record where we included the language to also include any necessary budget adjustment required, which affects the 2019 budget as well as the 2020 budget, which we've already submitted earlier in the year. I'd ask the body to consider adding that language so we can make the necessary adjustments on our end through finance.
I make a motion to add all necessary budget adjustments.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The, Mr. Ewell, we talked about that. I think we have a little update on Mr. Ewell, and I did send an email out to the gentleman from his church and also to one of the other veterans who brought this to our attention that we were planning to do it, to put his name on it. I was going to contact him again to see if they know of any family in Bay City, or if we can contact any family, if we're going to do that, to maybe have him present. But if you think that would be appropriate, I think if we're going to put his name out there, we should probably have maybe a little ceremony or unveiling. If we can track any family down, I guess apparently most of them moved down to Detroit area, I think it was. I got a letter from, I think it was from Mark, about where they're located at, that they're not in the area anymore. He was born here and he enlisted here, apparently, according to the records. So I will plan to try to contact the family if we can through that church member. I think it was Jim Petramul was his name, and see if we can find the family. Craig was checking on the engraving. Any numbers yet, or?
No, not yet, sir. We're making phone calls and making arrangements, but hopefully we'll have some numbers, definitive numbers for you in January.
I was looking online, Bay Monument. There was a place in Saginaw, and I think there was one in St. Charles that were listed as engraving places, so there's 3 in the area. Some of them are like $500 or something, depending how many letters you have to put in the engraving. The place up in Taos, as I mentioned last time, Etchworks, they did a couple Gulf War veterans, and they were like $150 to $200. So I think he probably gave us a discounted rate for it the last time. So we'll continue to look into that, get some prices, and then maybe try to reach out to the family if there's anybody that we can get a hold of. I was reading, I don't know if you all heard the story. He gave me the packet of materials. He was on a ship, and the ship was torpedoed in 1943. I don't know, Mark, you want to give us a little more detail on what you found out in your research?
Okay, so the original question was, through Tim Eckstein of the American Legion, was, who is this guy? We've never heard of him. We didn't know who he was, so that brought us to the search with the National Archives, enlisting their help to find anything. The information we had on the internet was extremely sketchy. We didn't have birth dates. We didn't have any information to go by. I sent a request to the National Archives. They contacted me and said, what are you looking for? So basically, it ended up being a FOIA request because the records are 70 years old since he passed. So we've looked for family, though, in response to your earlier, just a cursory, we were not able to find anyone in the area. So So it looks like the gentleman was a naval reserve, had gone to Alma College, had become a naval aviator, it seems, was merely a young ensign when one night his ship may have been hit by as many as 3 torpedoes. He is lost. They've never recovered. And so within 1 year, then DOD declared him as deceased.
The letter I got is that he was, let's see, according to this one, it says he was born in Vanderbilt, but we actually found out he was born in Bay City.
And I
Yeah.
checked with the clerk, and there is a line in the book down there that's, he was born here in Bay County, or in Bay City.
Yeah. And then he went to Albion College, won in the U.S. Navy Reserves. He was on the USS Liscum Bay, hit by a torpedo, sunk on November 24th, 1943. Family did live in Bay City for a short time, lived mostly in Vanderbilt, and he's also on the Grosse Pointe War Memorial as being a resident of Grosse Pointe at some time too. So, but if you're born in Bay City and enlisted in Bay City, we made the decision last time to put him on the wall.
As you read it through his record there, it's all the correspondence from family and his parents was from here in Bay City, so.
I have the packet here if anybody wants to take a look at it. It's sort of interesting. That's information from the archives on this gentleman. So if we can find family, we'll try to maybe get him up and have a ceremony then.
It's a good idea.
Any other questions on that? Any other old business? Otherwise, new business? Transportation-wise or anything? I don't have anything offhand right now. Miscellaneous? Announcements? Mr. Pergani will not be here next month. Everybody else is okay for January?
Should be.
I'll be here as long as my knee is healed up okay,
You'll be good.
hopefully. They'll wheel me in.
Yeah, I have one other announcement. The American Legion, keeping with annual traditions, has donated $1,000 to the veterans' food baskets that Crystal administers, and the American Legion Auxiliary also donated $500 to that program.
I talked to Mark Smith, and they've got enough money for their food distribution also for the veterans. He spoke to us a couple months ago. They got donations from the VVA and I think PLAV, so they had a fundraiser at AMVETS about a week ago, raised some money there. And I think they did a breakfast at the Knights of Columbus also, so I think they're doing pretty good there too. Any other announcements?
Do we have a date on the VA Christmas parties? Do we know when this going?
The Saginaw VA Christmas party was the 10th.
It was the 10th,
It
okay.
was the 10th.
I didn't know if it was last week or not.
I went and played bingo last Monday. The Vietnam Vets Local Chapter 494 does it like every other month, so I got to go and do some bingo.
Nice.
They had quilts for them also, so they got quilts and the money. And then our Lions Club did it on this Friday, last week Friday, so they've been pretty busy up there getting their gold dollars. They get gold coins to give them,
Yeah.
which they can't use in the slot machine, their machines up there at the VA, so they have to go somewhere else to use them. But all right, anything else? Otherwise, happy holidays to everybody. And the next meeting would be on the 20th, I believe. 21st, I'm thinking, 21st of January.
Yeah, I may be back by then.
You be back?
Maybe.
Okay.
21st, yes.
All right. Any public comment at the end? I'll add it to the agenda. Mark?
Sorry, guys, one quick. I was just going to ask Craig, did we need to receive that money? So should we-
We can. Yeah. Okay. So just to make sure we're, again, Mr. Marks, I'd ask a motion to receive the $1,500 donation for food baskets to be used for,
Okay,
and,
so we need a motion.
Motion to receive the 1,500 for the food baskets
Oh,
for the veterans.
Support.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr. Zippler?
Quickly, I would ask that the committee reconsider this $300 thing. The only stipulation would be honorably discharged. What's good for one is good for all. I'm done.
we'll discuss it when
All right, motion to adjourn would be in order.
Make a motion to adjourn until January 21st.
Second.
Or whenever.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? See you next year.